You've had a chance to look over these court documents today. In digging into them, what I notice that there's no motive, no why, no information about how these victims might have been targeted. How important is that information for a successful prosecution, Cloyd?
You never have to know why it happened. You just have to show that it happened. I mean, everybody wants to know why, and the link between this guy and the victims, and maybe it'll come out in the future, but it's not necessary for a successful prosecution.
When you look at this case compared to the hundreds of homicides you've worked successfully, what stands out to you in looking at the process they went through?
Well, first of all, this is a very small department that had no experience in anything like this. It was way outside their wheelhouse. But, they did what people should do when you have something, a task like this that's you think over your head. They reached out for help, and they did. And from reading the affidavit, it looks like they did a really good job. It sounds like they identified this guy potentially very early in this case, when I'm sure it was very frustrating for the detectives not to hear people say, you guys are screwing this case up, when they knew who probably did it really early on. And then they did the due diligence that you have to do to get this guy in the end.
Some of the things we're learning, like they found the sheath to the knife. This guy was supposed to be have a lot of information, a degree in criminology. He seems like a moron to me, like he did not have this well planned out. But you have interviewed killers face to face, Cloyd, numerous times. What do you think about this guy?
Well, it's like they say when people go into battle, you make all these plans and in the war, but when it starts, everything goes out the window, right? Because it's chaos, and he wasn't prepared for the amount of chaos in this case, and he did something stupid. He left the sheath to the knife right there. I mean, thank you very much. We'll take that. And they were eventually able to get the DNA profile off the button to the sheath, which of course wasn't in CODIS. But they did have a male DNA profile that shouldn't have been there, and that was huge.
Let's talk about that DNA and the genealogy. They said that they got DNA from the trash at the house where his father lived and used that to match back to him. Is this how homicides are worked these days?
Yeah, absolutely. What they did, this is what's called YSTR DNA. The Y chromosome passes down from all the males in the family. So male to father to son, son to grandson, grandson to great grandson. It's the same YSTR all the way down. So they had this DNA, and they could show that he was of the same YSTR as the father at the house, which is huge. It means it has to be a male directly related to that father. And of course, this is the guy who was in Idaho at the time, and they had the car surveillance and stuff. So that was the key, the YSTR. I mean, now they'll do the complete profile and get an exact match where you'll have, the probabilities in the quintillions or 50 to the 50th power or something now, the way they do it. But that was the key to getting it. You have to show this guy's a male relative of the father using the YSTR or the Y chromosome. He's a direct relative, which it said the affidavit eliminates 99.9% of the population. So that's a very good lead.
I've seen people on Facebook compare this guy to a Ted Bundy. Do you think he was a budding Ted Bundy? Maybe Ted Bundy would have been caught thanks to the DNA we have today. What do you think about this guy?
Well, I certainly think Ted Bundy would have been caught because of the forensics today, but I don't buy that this guy's a Ted Bundy. I mean, he's a grandiose kind of I don't want to say a nut because he's not psychotic, but he's an odd duck, and he planned to do this for whatever reason. Would he have done others later? Maybe. I don't know. But you can't call a guy a serial killer when there's a series of one. So I don't buy into the whole he's another Ted Bundy thing. Although, like I said, if Ted Bundy committed the crimes today, he wouldn't have got nearly as far because of the advances in forensic science.
Cloyd, if you were working this case, would you now be looking at other unsolved homicides in the area? And let me ask this more directly. Do you think it's possible he's already killed somebody prior to the quadruple homicides?
It is possible. Yes, I would do that. I don't necessarily believe it is a fact. I think he was building up to this point, and that's why he was, these guys, if they're serial killers, they usually get better as they go because they have experience. This reads to me like a rookie the first time, leaving the knife sheath there. What a huge thing. Why wouldn't you have that knife sheath on your belt so you couldn't possibly leave it there? That's the thing. These are rookie mistakes. And like the father, I think, said, this guy made a huge mistake. It's going to get him before he was arrested. And he was exactly right. That's what this guy did. So again, I would do my due diligence, but I don't believe there are any other cases that are going to be tied to this guy.
If you were working with the FBI profilers and putting a profile on this guy, would you say he's a narcissist, a sociopath, a spree killer? What do you think, Cloyd?
Well, he's certainly a narcissist, I believe, based on stuff I've read about his behavior. And I'm actually friends with someone who taught him at one point, and I can't really get into that, but he is a narcissist, and he is. I don't know enough to know about him if he's a sociopath or a psychopath, but yeah, the boy ain't right. I don't know. There's something going on here. Yeah.
That's a great way to put that. You know, for the public, it seemed like it was a long time, but homicide investigations, in the scheme of things, this really wasn't. But there was a lot of pressure on the department. Put it in perspective through your career. Did it take too long to get to this point in justice? Does that really matter anymore?
It didn't take too long, obviously, and it doesn't matter as much as it used to because of the forensic abilities we used to have. I mean, I think this was for us no information case taken 6 weeks. It's a win. I mean, that's not outrageous. The problem is they were under such pressure, and what they could learn from this is how to handle that pressure and not release. I commented early in this case, I thought they were releasing way too much information. If this was my case, I wouldn't want any of this stuff out, because you have to leave something out there so that some nutcase doesn't try to confess to it and tell you something he read in the paper, which happens every now and then. But overall, I mean, for a 35-man department, they did a great job. I mean, I got to give them kudos.
Retired Seattle Homicide Detective Cloyd Steiger, thank you for your time and your insight. We appreciate it.
Sure thing.